Hey guys, I'm Caleb Giddings here for GAT Daily. And today we're going to be talking about how to pick a gun for home defense. Not what gun to pick or what's the best gun for home defense, but rather how to go through the process of selecting the right firearm for your circumstances. And the reason why this is important is because the gun that you pick for home defense will be driven by your mission. And I know that you're probably not in the military or anything like that, but I'm going to use the word mission a lot in this video because mission is really what we're talking about. And that mission of protecting your home, protecting your family, and the circumstances that surround it are going to be what drive your selection of firearm, whether it's a shotgun, a handgun, a revolver, a carbine, a pistol caliber carbine, or a slingshot. The first step in picking a gun for home defense, whatever gun it may be, is to evaluate your mission. And this is the first time we're going to examine that word. What does mission mean to you? And I'll use myself as an example here. So me, I have a small child. I am married to an actual human woman. And my small child is not old enough yet where he can understand, oh, I heard the alarm go off, I need to run to mom and dad's room. And in fact, I wouldn't want that to be their trained response anyway. But what that means for me is it creates a defined mission parameter. So my mission parameters are very simple. In the event of a home invasion or home incursion, I have to retrieve small child and retreat to the designated safe room with my wife while we await for 911 to show up. The idea in this situation is nobody gets killed. That's the perfect outcome. And what we've done in that mission is now we've set up barriers and boundaries. So your deadly force barrier gets established. If there is an invader in between me and retrieving my child, that's a clear line for deadly force. If I have retreated to my safe space behind a locked door and I'm issuing verbal commands, don't come through this door, I have a gun, the police are coming, and that person comes through that door, that is a clear line for deadly force. So by establishing my mission, I've already started to establish parameters under which I am accepting the necessity for deadly force, parameters which I can articulate why I used deadly force, and that's very important too. Once you've established your mission, that's step one. Now you know what your goal is, and your mission is going to be different. If you're a single person who lives alone, maybe your mission is escape. Maybe your mission is evasion. Maybe your mission is you sleep naked, oiled up with a spear, and you really want to get that CONUS kill with your spear. That's probably illegal, but, you know, I'm not a lawyer, so none of this is legal advice. Anyway, once you've established your mission, the next thing that you need to do is do a layout walk of your home. You need to establish what your current home security system looks like. So for example, I used to live in Miami and I really liked it. I lived in a relatively controlled access building. You had to swipe in and out with a fob. To get to any of the resident floors, you also had to use a fob that was coded for that floor, and individual guest fobs were only coded for their floors or for the floors that had amenities on them. So theoretically, casual access to that building would be difficult. Obviously, there were plenty of ways around it, and I saw security breaches every day that made my head spin. But in theory, I lived in an access-controlled building. I lived on the 17th floor, so it was actually a fairly safe assumption that if somebody was in my house at night, they had already done a lot of illegal things to get there. So that assessment of my home security included the external factors that I had no control of, the access control to the building, the semi-private elevators, all of that. Then you need to look at physical access points as well. Your door locks, your window locks. Do you have intrusion detectors on these? When I lived in Indiana, I had a house. I had a very sturdy front door, and then I had intrusion detectors on all the ground level windows, on the back door, which was glass. I had a glass break sensor on all of that. Those intrusion detectors basically served as a way to let me know that somebody was either trying to gain unauthorized access to my property or had gained unauthorized access to my property. So step 2 is take a survey of your physical security. What does it look like? Do you have a crappy lock on your front door? Are you one of those weirdos who doesn't lock your doors? Lock your doors. Even if you're home, lock your doors. Lock your ground level windows, people. Don't make this easy, all right? But anyway, do that survey of your physical security. Make sure that you're doing everything that you can to prevent unauthorized access to your home, regardless of whether it's an apartment or whether it's an actual house. Step 3. Once you have created your mission and done a survey of your physical security and beefed it up where you felt like it maybe was lax, you now need to ask yourself a really hard question. Is a gun the right choice for me? And I know this is a gun channel, and I am a gun enthusiast and firearms instructor and semi-professional shooter, so my bias towards that you would probably think is yes, but it's not. A gun is not the right solution for everyone. So you do need to actually have this conversation with yourself. Is a gun the right thing for me? It might not be. Maybe you don't want to buy a locker to keep kids from getting into it. Maybe you aren't willing to do some of the necessary things that you need to do once you get a gun. Maybe you should get a Belgian Mal and have him take obedience classes instead. There's nothing wrong with that. And I want people to really get it in their head that there's nothing wrong with going, you know what? Maybe a gun isn't the thing for me. It may be, but it may not be. And you need to have that conversation with yourself, certainly before you run out and buy a gun. And the next thing you know, you've got a 12 gauge that you don't know how to load, but you saw a dude in a movie once go and it scared the crap out of a home intruder. We're on step 4 now. And step 4 is important because step 4 is now that you have done your mission, analyzed your physical security, decided that a gun is the right choice for you, this is where you now need to understand the sort of shot profiles and threat profiles that you may be facing in your house, because that will be one of the key factors that drives what kind of gun you get. Allow me to explain what I mean by a shot profile. A shot profile is 2 things. It is the most technically difficult shot that you would have to take in your house or on your property, and it is also a profile of the most likely shot that you may have to take in your house or on your property. And if you don't know how to do these things, and if you don't know how to walk your property and assess what these shot profiles look like, there are classes that you can take that will do that. My friend John Dufresne runs a class called Weaponized Geometry, I think is the name, where he deals with single-person CQB problems, where you can actually start to see these angles in your head after you've done it for a while. The reason understanding your shot profiles is important is because certain types of guns are better at certain types of shots. Let's look at different examples. So you live in a rural area, your closest neighbor is 100 meters away, and you have an acre and a half of land behind you, you have chickens and pets, and you're in an area full of coyotes, and one of your threat profiles is coyotes getting in and killing your chickens, which you use to get food, which you use to feed your family. That's actually a realistic concern, and it's not something you should rule out, because when we talk about home defense, we're not just talking about people. There are other things that might want to ruin your home. So in that situation, with that amount of land, with the threat profile of coyotes and that sort of thing, you're way less worried about an urban intruder kicking your door off its hinges than you are about a coyote killing your chickens. So that's going to weigh in on your thought process for what gun you select. Now flip that around. We'll go back to me in Miami, in my 17th floor condo, which I miss so much. In that condo, my most likely shot would have been from the door of my bedroom 7 meters to the front door. That is my most likely shot. On the other side of that front door, if I had missed that shot with the angle from my bedroom, the next thing that those rounds would have encountered would have been drywall, the guest bedroom, which was empty at the time that I was setting this strategy up, and then the exterior wall. Now, after we had our son and that guest bedroom became his bedroom, that changed my thought process on this shot, because now my most likely shot also became my most technically difficult shot, because a miss in that situation had the potential consequence of sending an errant round into my son's room. So that's why we evaluate both our most technically difficult shot and our most likely shot. The most technically difficult shot before I had the kid would have been around this corner, around this hallway, down, anyway, not important. Once the kids showed up and the room on the other side of where someone would stand right after they came into the front door became his room, my most technically difficult shot also was my most likely shot. So in that situation, what did I select as a home defense gun? Now, before we talk about the gun that I ultimately selected to meet my mission parameters, let's go back and revisit the process. So step one, establish my mission. My mission was, in the event of an intrusion, retrieve my small child, get back to the safe room with the small child, huddle up there with my wife, and wait for the cavalry to show up. I did a survey of my external defenses. So we had a controlled access building that you had to key card in and out of, you had to key card to get up elevator floors, etc. That was step two. Step three was asking myself, is a gun the right solution? I do this for a living, of course I was going to pick a gun. And step four was to evaluate my most likely shot and my most technically complex shot, which after the birth of my son became the same shot. It was a 7-yard no-fail shot where I absolutely could not miss. And to kind of draw this in a diagram for you, this is the front door of my old apartment. It opens like this. If someone walks in, this is a person, I'm back here walking out of my bedroom now facing this person. Behind this person is a drywall. Behind that person is more drywall, which leads into my son's room. My son's room is over here. On the other side of my son's room is an exterior wall. So any round that penetrates is going to go through drywall. This is why my shot now became a no-fail shot. I absolutely cannot miss this shot because the potential for consequences for missing this shot are killing my child. You can see why that is now your most technically complex shot that you can make, right? Right. So, what gun did I select based on those parameters? I picked a shotgun, but not just any shotgun. This is the amazing semi-automatic Beretta 1301. And the reason why I went with this gun is, well, there's a couple of reasons. First, shotguns. No firearm delivers fight-stopping power with one pull of the trigger like a 12-gauge shotgun firing double-aught buckshot. Nothing reasonable. Obviously, you could get a 40 mic or something like that and blow your whole house up. But nothing that is commonly available and readily accessible stops fights like a 12-gauge. Not an AR-15, certainly not a handgun. Now, the reason I went with the Beretta 1301 is this specific model is threaded for chokes. Let's just look in that chamber again so you can see there's a choke in there. And that's a modified choke. Now, with a modified choke in this gun and Federal Flight Control double-aught buck, of which I have a lot of it, this round will put all 8 of those pellets in a group smaller than my fist at 7 yards. And I patterned it with this RMR, which is adjustable. And the reason I patterned it with this RMR, which I can adjust the zero on and everything, is because at 7 yards, I know that if I put this dot on someone's chest or on their face even, all 8 of those pellets with 0 flyers are going to go exactly behind that dot. That's what led me to this weapon selection, because what I needed was something that would 99.9% of the time, with the correct shot placement, stop an attacker, stop an intruder immediately in their socks. I also needed to know that the pellets aren't going to fly everywhere, which is why I went with a modified choke and only use Federal Flight Control double-aught buck. I don't use any other buckshot. I don't just go to the store and buy random bags of buckshot and be like, this'll be fine. It's this shotgun, a modified choke, and Federal Flight Control double-aught buckshot, because I know, I've patterned it, I've gone to the range, I've done it a gazillion times. I can come off safe, have a round on target, center of mass with all 8 pellets in a group like this in under a second. And if that's not fight stopping power, I don't know what is. This gun was my choice for that circumstance. I've since moved. This gun is now unloaded and sits in my gun locker because it doesn't fit the new circumstance that I have. It doesn't fit the current self-defense parameters that I have. It may, in the future, be the right choice for that. And to explain, let's examine a different self-defense setup. Let's say in scenario number 2, you're married, you live in a house in the suburbs, so you're not out in a rural area. Your police response times are probably going to be in the 10 to 15 minute range, not the 30 to 45 minute range. We already said that you're married, but you don't have any children. You've got a 20-meter long driveway, which has a fence around it with a gate so that the only vehicles that can access your driveway are people with authorized fobs and stuff like that. And your house is pretty well fortified. You've got thick doors, you've got good deadbolts, you've got an intrusion detection system, but you've got a really long hallway because you make some money and you do okay for yourself. So your master bedroom opens up into a 25-meter long hallway because you rich or something. And at the end of that 25-meter long hallway is your living room, which opens into a front door, blah, 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 which you've got the 25 meters down to the end of your driveway, right? I'd probably have a carbine for that. I would definitely want a rifle for that situation, a suppressed rifle, because shooting rifles indoors without suppression or hearing protection sucks. But in that situation, in those parameters where you're not retrieving a child, where you're no fail shot, where the consequences for a miss are completely different, I like a carbine for that. I like a carbine for any time I'm going to have to reach out past 10 yards. In my old circumstance, there was no potential shot in my house that was longer than 10 yards, and at 10 yards, that 1301 shot a pattern like this right behind the front sight, or the red dot once I put it on there. So, this is why this video is about how to pick a gun for home defense, and not what gun to pick for home defense. And again, let's go over those steps. Step 1, establish your mission. Your mission is going to be based on a whole bunch of different parameters. Are you married? Do you have kids? Do you live with roommates? Do you live alone? Where do you live? All of these other things. Step 2, establish the firmness of your defenses. Figure out where you can harden yourself against intrusion, whether it's better locks, locking your windows, buying a home defense system, getting a dog, whatever those are. Take a look at that. Number 3, decide if a gun is the right thing for you. And number 4, do a chalk talk with your most technically difficult shot and your most likely shot. Once you've done all of those things, you can select the weapon, whether it's a rifle or a shotgun or a pistol, that best fits your home defense parameters. I'm Caleb Giddings. Thanks for watching.